Hi, I'm Ruby. I sit within the IAM team here at Empiric, focusing on the Nordic and Dutch market. Empiric Insights is our video series where our team sits down with experts across different specialties that we recruit for to hear their guidance and perspectives on the forces shaping technology, leadership and talent today. And today we are joined by Robert Garskamp, who is the IAM Program Manager at Alliander and the founder of ID Next. Great to have you on, Robert. Can you please introduce yourself and explain and describe your background within IAM?
Sure. So I've been working in identity and access management for quite some time, mainly in large enterprise environments where complexity is really default. My work has always been at the intersection of strategy, execution, and also organizational change. In addition to that, I act also as a trusted advisor to senior leadership and boards, helping shape how identity is positioned within broader business and security strategies. So I'm also responsible for building and nurturing a community of digital identity experts where knowledge sharing and collaboration are key to staying ahead in such as a rapidly evolving field. And what really fascinates me about IAM is that it's often positioned as a technical domain, but in reality it's much broader because it touches governance, it touches risk, compliance, user experience, and also increasingly even business agility. So over time, I've seen IAM evolved from a more control mechanism to something much more strategic. And I strongly believe that IAM professionals can and actually should do more than just deliver successful IAM programs. They are in a unique position to influence how organizations operate security, efficiently, and also at scale.
Perfect. Do you just leading on from that, do you want to give like an introduction into your background? Because I think you've definitely got a very interesting background and sort of how you came from where you did to obviously now program manager, IAM manager at Alliander, and obviously being a founder of ID Next as well.
Sure. So I'm already working in this business for more than 20 years and started somewhere in the mid 90s as just working on the service desk and helping people in order to make sure that they are being helped with the problems that they have. And during my career, I've been built up into the role that I currently are being filled in, working for different companies, big companies within the Netherlands, especially for companies where they have a need of identity access management situations that needs to be resolved. And like I said, I'm also acting as a trusted advisor, so helping their board members in order to, especially in the situation that we currently are with the geopolitical challenges, to make sure that also identity access management is being set in place. And I'm founder of the ID Next platform. That's a platform where we are trying to bring people together, experts and professionals in the world of identity access management, or much broader in the world of digital identity. And you can imagine that there's a lot of things to discuss and also in order to help society a step further.
Excellent. I'm quite excited to ask this next question, especially because I think it's very relevant in our IAM market at the moment. So with SAP IDM reaching its end of life at the end of 2027, what are you seeing companies move towards, and what should senior leaders be thinking about now to avoid rushed and risky migrations later on in the process?
Yeah. So I think each organization will face with the moment that technology is out of support or is end of life. So lifecycle management is also an important topic within organizations. And what you see is that many organizations are moving away from old IAM systems and are choosing modern, flexible, cloud-based solutions. And instead of relying on one large monolithic system, companies are now more selecting specialized best-of-breed solutions for different parts of identity and access management. And you can distinguish those in three items. One is managing who has access to what, so-called identity governance. So ensuring employees, contractors, and partners only have the access they need, no more, no less. We are talking about controlling login and authentication, so-called access management, So make sure that enabling secure and convenient login methods, including single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, but also adaptive authentication based on context or risk. And we are talking about protecting privileged accounts or privileged access management, where you are safeguarding the most powerful accounts in the organization, which, if misused, could cause significant security or operational impact. And why this matter for leaders now is that although 2027 or 2028 or another date may seem far away, my experience showed that transitioning IAM systems is complex and often underestimated. And the biggest challenges are not technical. It's more about managing organizational change. It's about aligning stakeholders and also embedding new processes. And without careful planning, companies risk delays, confusions, and security gaps are the most critical elements here. So 3 things to complete: define a clear vision. Don't just think we need a new tool. Understand more what success look like for your organization. How should IAM support growth, security, compliance? So a clear target state will guide every decision. Also understand your current situation. So assess your existing systems, your processes and skills. This helps you to make informed choices about migration paths and priorities. And also, probably the most important thing, invest in people and ownership. So assign clear responsibility or accountability for the transition. Make sure that the teams have the right skills, authority, and resources to drive the change. And also, not alone, that doesn't mean that only tools will succeed, but also you need the people to empower to manage these processes.
And coming from your own experience, would you recommend that this migration happens now or starts to be planned now, or something that should maybe be left closer to 2027? Like, what is the timescale on your side of things?
If organizations are still thinking now about how to do this migration or transition, then I won't say you will be late, but you are in time pressure, because normally migration projects last for 2 or 3 years, including preparation, realization, and also aftercare. And if you take into account, for instance, if there is an end of life in 2037, you are now just thinking about how to do this, then I believe that you are there on a critical time scale, and you need to accelerate to make sure that you will go into the timelines that are being set. So it's really important for now to rush up, to accelerate, and to make sure that it's clear what you're going to do to make sure, because let's say 18 months from now is probably, I won't say tight, well, I will say tight, but I will say also very close.
Excellent. And in regards to that, just following on from your point there, what are you seeing with the tools or platforms that they're migrating to? Are you seeing a trend, or is it more or less preference within an IAM organization's team?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. So first, it also depends on the type of organization, where you can imagine that there are organizations which are already consisting of legacy systems and need to do the migration itself, especially for organizations which has critical infrastructure. So not only in IT, but essentially also in OT, operational technology. You can imagine that there also are choices being made, especially in consideration with the geopolitical challenges that we are having. So sovereignty is there really a word that's being used for quite some time. You don't want to be really depending on specific suppliers based on the geographical location. So you can imagine that there also choices are being made. So it really depends on the type of organization itself. But what you really see from a vendor perspective, that they are going into the cloud. Cloud-based solutions are being offered there, trying to do more flexible, and that has some advantages essentially, but also means that if you go into cloud or especially on-prem, it really depends on the type of organization and the choices that you would like to take.
Cool. Thank you for that, Robert. I think that's definitely relevant in the IAM industry and market at the moment, because I know and you know a lot of organisations are going through this process currently. So definitely relevant to our viewers and anyone that's in the same predicament at the moment. So next question, Robert. Non-human identities are becoming a major focus in IAM as a whole. How is the rise of non-human identities changing the identity landscape, and where do you see the biggest benefits and also risks?
Yeah, yeah. So you're correct. Let's say, the last maybe 10 years, we were talking about human identities, which were really important, especially for big organizations, in order to make sure that people are being onboarded at the right time, at the right place, with the right access. We now also see a trend where non-human identities are being gathered and used. And for people who are not aware of what is non-human identities, that really are accounts used by machines, bots, or software system instead of humans. Some examples are service accounts or automated scripts. And what we see today in most organizations are that there are more machine identities than human users. And why they matter is especially that non-human identities are critical enablers of automation, because they allow business to operate efficiently in cloud systems, DevOps environments, but also microservices architecture. And they support faster product delivery, because automated processes can interact securely without human intervention. There are some risks regarding non-human identities, because one of them is hidden exposure. A lot of organizations don't know how many non-human identities exist, and also where they are being used or who's responsible for them. And also another risk is that non-human identities has over-privileged accounts. And what I mean with over-privileged accounts means is that there are a lot of accounts have broad access just in case, which creates a serious security risk, which can recall. The last item is the lack of lifecycle management, because non-human identities often persist even they are no longer needed, increasing potential attack surfaces. There is a business impact, because an unmonitored non-human identity could allow a hacker to move across systems unnoticed, but you also have to take into account where compliance audits, where an organization can fail because they cannot track machine identities and their access. So some takeaways here are: you need to treat all identities equally, even if they are human or machine, with clear ownership and governance. You need to implement simple visibility and monitoring practices. Even basic tracking dramatically reduce risk. And also start small with high impact areas. So there could be critical servers or private service accounts, and then expand and make sure it's going to be more mature.
Perfect. And looking into the future, obviously considering the pros and cons that you just gave there, do you see AI being a hindrance to the IAM market in, say, the next decade, or are you saying it's going to be like a benefit to the IAM market?
Well, it could certainly be a benefit. I know some people are talking about AI for IAM or IAM for AI. I think it's somewhere in the middle. But especially if you see at the current developments regarding AI and how it can be used, that's certainly something that can also be leveraged into the IAM world. But especially AI can also help in order to automate certain processes of workflows within the system, but also in the organization. Essentially, also, you need people there to make sure that you can monitor things. So AI can be certainly a benefit, but at the end also means that you have to make sure that it's going to be controlled and it's going to be monitored and also going to be maintained.
Thank you for that, Robert. Yeah, definitely interesting. I think we're seeing as well, it's taking a toll on some businesses, and then other organisations are using it very strategically, and it's working for them. So yeah, thank you for that. Focusing more on yourself now, you've worked across a range of different industries and multi-organisations. How does the IAM landscape differ between those sectors, and which industries are setting the standard for the identity strategy?
Yeah, sure. So if we're talking about IAM and also the maturity of IAM, it's not really uniform across industries because it's often shaped by regulation, by risk exposure, and also by digital transformation priorities. So if we take a snapshot of industries, we look at the financial services, where you'll see that you have a highly advanced IAM processes, and especially driven by strict regulatory requirements. And we also have mature reporting and compliance structures, which make audits smoother and often first to adopt cloud IAM, but also adaptive application and automation. If you look into the energy and utility sector, for instance, there we see really a rapid evolving identity and access management, and especially motivated by the need to protect critical infrastructure. So it increased the digitalization into grids, IoT, and also operations that drives the urgency. Another sector is for instance, retail and manufacturing. And that's going historically slower to implement identity access management beyond basic access controls. Although we see an acceleration going on, and that acceleration has really a relationship with digital supply chains, e-commerce growth, and also cloud adoption. So
Nice.
if we took an insight for executives, leadership is no longer defined purely by regulation pressure. And organizations also see IAM, finally, as a strategic business enabler rather than a compliance checkbox where you are going to be leading in innovation, efficiency, and security.
Excellent. And one thing I definitely wanted to ask, as you have experience in this industry as well, and it's always good for me to understand you and any viewers as well, how would you say consultancy IAM teams differ from, let's say, a finance organisation or banking or insurance, whatever it may be? How does consultancy differ from those IAM teams? Because obviously, considering that IAM team, there'll be multiple different projects that those people will be going on to.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're talking about consulting teams, you're also talking about specific skills and expertise that are required. And like I just said, it's not rather any technical project anymore, but also a business project in a business shape. And that also means that you need the perfect people in there, and to make sure that you are going to translate what's being done on the technical side into the functional side and have the conversations with the business. Because business are not really worried about how things are being built. They are worrying more about, hey, I have to deliver business value for my organization. How can identity access management be there of any support? So, and if you look at the different sectors, like just mentioned, where we have the different teams, they also are being driven by the mission and vision of an organization. And it means also that approach is really important to make sure that you have the right conversation with the right people.
Excellent. And following on from our previous conversation earlier about legacy systems and moving to modern cloud IAM solutions, many organisations at the moment are modernising IAM while still relying on the legacy systems. How are clients approaching these migrations in practice, and what trends to influence the decision between incremental change and full replacement?
Yeah. So what you just said, many organizations face the question, should I replace the old IAM system entirely or going to a modernization in a phased approach? And the reality is probably that you can choose for a hybrid phased approach, because full replacement may sound attractive, is possible, but it's often also too disruptive and risky. And how organizations manage modernization is about introducing new capabilities alongside legacy systems early, or going to a modernization in a phased approach. And the reality is probably that you can choose for a hybrid phased approach, because full replacement may sound attractive, is possible, but it's often also too disruptive and risky. And how organizations manage modernization is about introducing new capabilities alongside legacy systems, migrating applications and identities in phases, focusing on high risk or high value areas first, and then also gradually decommission old systems to reduce the disruption. And factors influencing the decision is technical debt, so how outdated or inflexible the current system is, business urgency, so immediate regulatory or operational pressures, and also risk appetite. So the willingness to tolerate disruption versus gradual change. And why governance really matters, because governance sounds to be a little bit of a, I won't say dirty word, but it's not a word that people like. But governance is really important because if you have a clear roadmap, then you can also prevent ad hoc decisions during the transition, communications with stakeholders, which ensures buy-in, and also ongoing monitoring ensures the system, for instance, a hybrid system, and it does not create then new security gaps. So a clear plan with a staged execution often delivers better outcomes than a big bang replacement. It's about control, it's about visibility, and it's about reducing risk. It's not only about speed.
And how long would you say, from your experience, does that planning take? Is that something that is over a long course of time, or is it a short period of time where they do quick planning and then find a strategy and move forward?
So identity access management projects tends to be long, and especially for the management or the executive committee, it's always a domain which is not always visible within the organization. Although it's really important because granting access to applications based on the least privilege is really important. You don't want to have people have more access than needed. So normally these kind of trajects or streams tends to be for a couple of years because you need to, in order to prepare, because you are looking into a landscape which is maybe not well documented or not clear what's being used. It's not out of the box, it's not standard, it's based on things that has been configured by people who doesn't know it anymore, or the documentation is unavailable, and then go into realization. So in my 20 years of experience, projects like this tend to be 2 or 3 years or 4 years in order to make sure that you have built the foundation there, and then you can extend with the functionality that's needed in order to make sure that you also are providing business value, because that's something the organization would like to see.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Robert. Moving on to something now that we've seen and again is a trend in the market. So I definitely want to get your input on this. With moves like CrowdStrike's acquisition for SGNL to build agentic identity-driven security, what does this signal about where the IAM market is heading, and how should hiring managers prepare their teams for what's to come next?
So if we're talking about IAM itself, IAM is more than technology. It's a field where people, process, and communication matter as much as the tools. So what really makes teams successful is technical expertise, understanding systems, platforms, security basics, business awareness, knowing how the organization operates and what drives the risk, and also communication skills. So explaining IAM decisions to stakeholders clearly. And for professionals, IAM is a high value career at the intersection of IT, security, and also business. And to advance focus on organizational understanding and problem solving is not just about mastering tools. So if you're going for a hiring manager, then really hire for adaptability, collaboration, and also strategic thinking. So not just about certifications, it's more about how people are and how they are being well maintained in their career. So strong teams are those that can guide the organization safely to change while improving security and efficiency. And if you're talking about identity itself, it's not longer just about who can log in. It's a backbone of security. So companies are moving towards identity-driven security, where access decisions happen dynamically, based on risk, content, and policies. So some trends that I see that I would like to share with you is about continuous real-time access decisions. So no more static access permissions. It's about policy-driven and adaptive security. So permissions are adjusted automatically as risk changes, and also about integration with security monitoring. So identity feeds or identity events feeds into threat detection and response. So as a conclusion, IAM now is more interdisciplinary, blending security, IT operations, cloud, and DevOps knowledge. And hiring needs to focus on problem-solving skills, automation experience, and cloud familiarity. So it's not just only about the IAM tool, because the team should be able to collaborate across functions, ensuring identity strategies and also align with business needs.
And when you say problem-solving skills, are you referring to when they're hiring, focusing more heavily on like the soft skills in order to collaborate well as a team?
Correct. So it's a combination. It's about technical skills and building up your technical experience based on your career, but it's also about the soft skills. And that's what I just mentioned. Make sure that you really understand what is being asked there and how can I help here. And it's not only about a technical solution, it's more about how to help the organization and to make sure that you have their problem solving where it really helps the business and make sure that you can add the value for the organization itself.
Perfect. Okay, Robert, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wish more people, especially hiring managers or aspiring IAM professionals, understood about building successful teams or careers in this space?
Well, last thing that I could share is also maybe a last key takeaway, because I think that organization at this time where we are currently are in a geopolitical changing world, a lot of things are happening there. So that means also maintaining and securing your critical infrastructure is really important. That organizations should invest in people and processes, not just technology. Because if you are doing that, I believe that you will get the long-term benefits of identity access management regarding resilience, compliance, and also about business agility.
Perfect. Well, it's been lovely having you on, Robert. That was the last of the questions. Please make sure to like and share our insights. We have many more, again, in the IAM space and across different technical industries. Thank you for the conversation, Robert. Have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, it was a pleasure to have this interview, especially with you, Ruby. So great. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks again, Robert. It's been lovely having you join us today. Please be sure to follow Robert on LinkedIn just for more insights and market information in regards to the IAM space. He definitely posts a lot over there. Until next time, see you again soon.